This is a mass market paperback. It was designed to be inexpensive, flexible, replaceable, which means it was never meant to last. So I wanted to see what happens if I treated it like it was. The problem is, once I start altering this cover, there is no going back. Before I even think about touching the physical book, I have to decide what it's going to be. And whatever I choose here has to survive being transferred into the real world. Digital lines are forgiving, materials are not. Once I commit to this design, I am committing to cutting it into the actual cover. I started sketching the cover design on my iPad using Autodesk Sketch. I wanted this cover art to resemble an old fairy tale tome, ye olde book or something. So something shiny and magical that sparks curiosity and gets increasingly more detailed the closer you get to it. The front cover stays mostly restrained, just vines and a mask. No obvious imagery, no spoilers. The back cover is where I hid all the Easter eggs. Feyre with her bow and arrow, more masks, Tamlin in his beast form, and the wolf. If you know, you know. If not, then a trip to your local library seems in order. In prior bookbinding projects, I created the cover using heat transfer vinyl, but with this design, it wasn't really a possibility. The vinyl and my cutting machine would not be up to the task. The lines for the design are way too thin, and the design is just too delicate, and the vinyl would just disintegrate during the cutting process. Thankfully, I have another tool at my disposal, something every craft girly needs to take her makes to the next level.
Lasers, fine details, expert precision, plus free gift with purchase. Really cool sunglasses.
Okay, so I've got the cover cut out. I did this on my laser. Man, lasers, that's a game changer right there. So I want some of these embossed areas to be gold, but not all of them. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do that. I think for the text portions, I'm going to cut that out just on my cutting machine using heat transfer vinyl, because letters, I'm not confident that I could hand paint those well enough to look good. So for all of the text areas, especially on the spine, I am going to cut that out of heat transfer vinyl. And then for the areas in here that I want to be gold, I'm just going to try and hand paint those as best I can, because I think that'll work out best. But overall, this is the first time I've ever tried doing this with a laser, and I am very, very happy with how this turned out. It looks really cool in person, and it feels great. It's got like a texture to it when you touch it, which is what I really, really like. Yep. Lasers. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Now that we've cut the entire design into the cover, it is time to add some shine to it. While heat transfer vinyl is not really going to be a possibility for a lot of the more delicate features, I am able to use heat transfer vinyl for the title, the author's name, and the description in the back of the book. Those parts of the design are beefy enough to survive cutting from heat transfer vinyl. However, even though these details are beefy enough to survive the cutting process, getting them to stick into the engraved portions of the cover was another story. No matter how hard I tried, I could not get the vinyl to stick inside the engraved areas because my iron was just too fat to get into those smaller little thin lines. So I had to get creative and use an X-Acto knife to kind of peel off the letters and then place them into the engraved bits and then hit them with the iron again. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. Once I got all the vinyl portions done, it was time to figure out how to create color and shine in those more delicate areas. Again, think ye olde fairy tale tome. My first idea was to hand paint all of the engraved details. This was optimistic. Then I tried filling everything in with a metallic gel pen. Unfortunately, the tip was too wide, which turned this delicate detailing more into like interpretive outlining. While I was trying to clean up my mistakes with rubbing alcohol, I noticed something useful. The alcohol removed the paint from the raised areas, but left it inside the engraved lines. So instead of painting inside the design, I painted over like the entire cover. Then I wiped everything down with isopropyl alcohol. This left the gold in the engraved areas and completely cleaned it off the raised bits. Now comes the moment of truth. Now that the cover art is done, it is time to rip off the old cover from this book and place the text block into the new cover. Once I do this, there is no coming back. This book is ruined if I can't get this right. To finish it, I hand painted the book edges with the characters from the book. I have heard other book lovers say that no matter what book they're reading, they always imagine the male love interest as Henry Cavill. If the love interest changes halfway through the story, the new guy becomes Henry Cavill and the old guy becomes some faceless other person. I do the same thing, but with Jimin from BTS. If the male main character has a snarky friend, that snarky friend is always V from BTS. So my references for Tamlin and Lucian were Jimin and V, because my brain made that decision years ago and it refuses to reconsider. Farah is here too. I have never loved a story so much while simultaneously loathing the main character and just screaming at them to grow the f*** up and make better choices. I hate Farah so much as a character. Even not just in the first book, throughout the entire... I actually don't like Rhysand that much either. I don't like any of them. Because it's one thing to, be bad at your job and kind of know you're doing it, know you're phoning it in, like this one up here. It's another thing to think you're doing a good job. And to kind of... I don't know. I don't like people who kind of suck but think they're awesome, and that's kind of what Farah and Rhysand make me think of later. I bet you she sucks at painting too. Once the edges were painted, I added a few final details and glued the text block into the cover. This is something that must be done perfectly. If it is not perfectly straight, then the entire thing will just look terrible. Once it's glued in place, there really is no saving it and there's no removing it and trying again. If it is not straight, there is no salvaging it. There's no peeling it off and trying again. It adheres pretty quickly, and if you try and pull it off, it's just going to rip and you're going to have to start over again. So this is really a moment of truth. Once the new text block was glued into the cover, I put everything in the book press and let it dry overnight. And then the book was complete. Here's the big reveal. I am really, really happy with how this turned out. I'm actually kind of sad because I'm not making this for myself. A friend of mine commissioned this to make it as a gift for somebody else, so I don't get to keep it. But now that I know exactly what design I want to do and how to get everything to work the way that I want, I can make as many of these as I want. But until next time, as I've said before, I'm not cut out for OnlyFans. So if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel because this is the best I can do. Bye!